After 5 years of being divorced, my former wife returned and requested another opportunity because she had left our children for a new partner. My former wife Angela, who is 36 years old, and I met when we were in our mid-20s. We met at work when I was around 24 years old. It took us 2 years to get married. Currently, our children are 9 and 7 years old. She was not happy about her second pregnancy, which happened unexpectedly, but she chose not to terminate it, even though I reassured her that it was fine. I didn't want to force her to do anything she didn't want to do. After our first daughter was born, our relationship was still strong, and we were still very much in love. But everything was different after we had our second child. Angela became very upset and started being unkind, constantly targeting either me or our oldest child. I thought it was just her body chemicals and tried to get along with this new side of her. We believed things would improve with time, but they actually got worse. As a result, my daughter and I learned to be cautious around her. Angela decided to stay at home with her children. I was responsible for everything. She left her job to take care of herself after our first child was born. While I was working, she cleaned the house and looked after our oldest child. However, when she became pregnant with our second child, she mentioned feeling too exhausted to tidy up the house and look after the children, so we needed to employ a maid. Even though it was more expensive than we expected, I decided to hire assistance because I didn't want to inconvenience her during her pregnancy. When our second daughter was born, I thought she would resume managing the household and looking after the children. I was not one of those men who didn't help with household chores, just to clarify. Even though I was tired, I always made an effort to assist at home after work. I thought Angela would improve soon after our younger daughter was born, but after a while she didn't improve much. She was still impolite and mad, and she refused to do any tasks. She prefers to stay at home watching TV all day. She never spent time playing with the children or taking them outdoors. Instead, she would occasionally give money to our neighbor to bring them to the park. I didn't intend to sound upset, but I did. I worked many hours to help our family, but she wouldn't do simple tasks at home. It was becoming increasingly costly to continue paying the maid to do all the cooking, cleaning, and other chores. Angela didn't help me at all, so I had to pay all our bills and save money for our daughter's future. This was becoming more and more difficult. I realized we couldn't continue as we were. After almost 6 months since our younger daughter was born, I decided to speak with Angela. I knew it would be difficult to discuss, so I asked my parents to take care of our daughters for the day. When I talked to Angela, I told her I understood she was exhausted from being pregnant 2 times, but I asked her to collaborate with me and support me. I told her that having a maid was becoming too costly, and I asked her to fulfill her promise of doing some of the housework again. This way we could reduce the maid's hours and save money. She immediately rejected the idea, explaining that she needed to take care of the children and couldn't clean. She told me to stop finding reasons and accusing her of our financial issues and to begin putting in more effort. I told her I was trying my hardest, but for our marriage to succeed, she needed to do the same. I also mentioned that she wasn't paying much attention to the children because they were sitting in front of the TV with her for long periods, as the maid had mentioned casually. This was incorrect. Angela shouted at me and accused me of watching her through the maid. She got mad and said she wouldn't tolerate me bossing her around anymore. She also mentioned that she wouldn't do everything, while I stayed at my desk for a couple of hours each day. When I asked her for money help, she felt ashamed that I had to ask, as I am supposed to be the one in charge at home. She didn't understand, and she was holding on to anything to make it seem like there was nothing wrong with her sticking to her decision. We had a major argument. She called me a loser because I couldn't afford a maid, and I called her a lazy person in return. I told her that our oldest daughter was afraid of her and that she wasn't doing well as a wife and mother. She was very upset by my words, and she pushed me forcefully. When I fell, I bumped into the table and got hurt. The glass shattered. Angela apologized and cried the entire time I was being taken to the hospital. I was fortunate that my injuries were not severe, but I could have been seriously injured. After that, I informed Angela that she needed to go because I didn't trust her anymore. I didn't feel comfortable leaving the children with her. I knew she would also become angry with them. When I asked my parents to take care of our daughters for a bit, Angela resisted for a week and stated she would never allow it to happen again. But I couldn't rely on her anymore. I was going to ask for a divorce, but Angela pleaded with me to give our relationship another opportunity. We decided that she would go live with her parents and begin therapy before the weekends. I wouldn't consider allowing her to return to live with us until a doctor confirmed she was well enough. Since cheerful individuals don't behave like that, it was evident that something was amiss with her. However, she was very motivated to improve, so I decided to give her an opportunity. I didn't want my daughters to grow up without their mother, so I decided to postpone getting a divorce and try to save our marriage. We were also attending counseling for our relationship, even though we were living in different places. But everything was in vain because she was unfaithful to me in the end. To assist me with my daughters, my parents came to live with me. Angela lived with her parents. We attended therapy for our marriage every week, and things started to improve for a bit. I also spoke with her therapist, who said she had postpartum sadness but was improving. She started to have problems controlling her anger, which was new for her, and things escalated when she pushed me. We both woke up because of that. This lasted for over a year, and after 6 months, I allowed her to see our daughters while I supervised. I felt relieved when I noticed that she was gradually returning to her usual self. Finally, it seemed like our situation was improving and we could find a way to succeed. Suddenly, she stopped attending our counseling sessions without explanation. She also stopped talking to me, but I knew she was improving because her therapist kept me informed. I attempted to speak with her for several weeks, but she avoided me and mentioned she needed some time alone. I didn't understand it. Last week, I finally visited her at her parents' house after not seeing her for almost 3 months. In the past, I didn't do it because her parents didn't approve of me and accused me of being the reason their daughter behaved strangely. While Angela was staying with them, she advised me not to visit her to avoid any further issues, which we wanted to avoid. I didn't usually go, but I decided to go because she had been distant and missing counseling sessions. She didn't appear interested when she arrived, and I couldn't understand why. She always said everything was okay when I tried to speak with her in person, on the phone, or via text, but her behavior indicated she was keeping something secret. I thought she would be at her parents' house when I arrived, but she wasn't there. They closed the door on me and refused to tell me her location when I inquired. That made me feel really bad. I was in front of their house and tried to call Angela, but she didn't pick up. After a few tries that didn't work out, I began to feel increasingly afraid. I quietly moved around the house, looking for a way to get inside. I went outside to the garden. She was aware that her parents always kept the kitchen door open. I didn't have to go that distance, though. Angela was sitting on a swing in the garden with a guy I didn't recognize, and they were kissing. I will never forget that moment because it was the worst thing that has ever happened to me. I still recall it. The man moved away fast when he saw me, and when Angela looked back, I was already walking back to my car. I didn't pay attention when she tried to prevent me after she reached me. I was very surprised. She attempted to reach for me, but I warned her not to touch me and shook my head. I got into my car and drove back to my house. When I arrived, I prevented her from speaking so she couldn't explain. I informed my parents about what I saw and requested their assistance in finding a lawyer. I didn't see or hear from Angela until we had to meet with the mediator chosen by the court to finalize our divorce agreement. At that moment, I had become like a robot, focused only on helping my daughters and feeling mentally exhausted. I didn't feel anything, not even when I discovered that Angela was renouncing her rights as a parent. She didn't want to be with us anymore. Instead, she wanted to be with the guy I saw her with. Let's call him Sean. She preferred to be with the man I saw her with, whom we will refer to as Sean. He was her friend when they were children. They stopped spending time together after finishing high school, but they reconnected when she moved back in with her parents. It seemed like she had feelings for him, and her parents were fine with it because they allowed her to kiss him in their backyard, even though she was married and had 2 children. They always wanted her to marry Sean, so they were happy she was finally making the correct decision, as if she had always been doing it. The division took a while to complete. Angela wanted financial support from her husband, even though she had been unfaithful. It took some time, but my lawyer and I worked hard to ensure that she didn't receive anything in the divorce. That was understandable, as I had covered all the expenses while she just stayed at home watching TV. Today is the 5th anniversary of the divorce being finalized. We made sure she didn't receive anything in the end. During my divorce, it was very tough, but I had to keep going because I needed to take care of my daughters. I was the only person they had. They were very kind, and I will never be able to express how grateful I am that they supported me while I worked and looked after my children. It has been 5 years and I am happy that I got a divorce. If I hadn't decided that, I wouldn't be in my current situation. Back then, it felt like the worst possible thing that could happen to me. I am in a much better situation now than before. I have had a good life. I now earn more money, have a larger house, and only need to spend money on my daughters. My mom and dad live nearby and come to see me a lot, and I have friends who care about me a lot. My kids are really happy. That's everything a person needs, and I'm grateful that things are going well at the moment. At least, that was the case until Angela reappeared a few days ago. When the bell rang, the children were at school, and I was getting ready to go to work. She was outside with a boy beside her when I opened the door. It was obvious from the start that he was Angela's child. He was probably only 3 or 4 years old. I was still trying to understand why she had entered without letting me know when she began to cry. She said she was sorry and wanted to fix things.
Do you know what? She said she was ready to have children and try to make our marriage work again. I was surprised that she returned after so many years and wanted to give our marriage another chance, as if it was up to her. I made my decision in an instant. I closed the door and asked her to leave. I didn't want to get involved in the situation, so I told her that there was no family here anymore. When she was unfaithful to me with Sean, I no longer considered myself her husband. She quickly decided to give up custody of her daughters so she could no longer consider us her family. The divorce met all legal requirements. Then, I closed the door and asked her to go away because I didn't want her on my property. That annoying person stopped me from getting angry and cursing at her, even though I was very upset. I could hear her yelling outside my door for some time, but I ignored it. Once I made sure everything was fine, I went to work. I avoided thinking about it because it would weaken my resolve, and I couldn't allow that. I almost forgot that Angela had visited my house. When I arrived home from work, my parents called me and asked why I had told her to leave. They told me that Angela had phoned them after I had closed the door on her. She was also angry. They told her my new address and asked her to visit me because she was getting divorced from Sean and now had an opportunity to reconcile with me. They mentioned that Angela phoned them around a month ago, and the meeting had been arranged well in advance. My parents believed it was time for me to consider my children because my daughters needed a mother figure and Angela was the most suitable person for the role. They believed she should have another opportunity, so they informed her of my location and what to tell me. They made me really mad. They needed my approval before forgiving her or giving her a second chance. If the children had been at home, the situation could have been much more serious. They were not being careful when they did this. I told them off, but they wouldn't admit their mistake. They said they supported me during my divorce by looking after the children, and they still do it occasionally. They mentioned that although I had the final decision, they also had the right to choose what was best for the children and couldn't deny them that. I thought they were silly to believe that. In the end, my daughters belong to me, not to anyone else. They supported me during my divorce, and I will always appreciate that. But it wasn't their responsibility to reunite me with Angela. The people with me said I was selfish for not giving Angela another opportunity after our argument. They mentioned they knew a lot about her and believed she was someone special who should be part of my daughter's life. Even though I explained that Angela had given up her rights as a parent, they were still upset that I believed they would endanger my daughters or me. They told me I had negatively impacted their lives because I was too proud to acknowledge that my daughters needed me as a mother. I have been thinking about it a lot lately. I don't believe I was selfish or wrong for not allowing my ex-wife to become a mother again. Modify 1. My opinion of Angela's relationship with my parents has shifted since she came to my house with her son last week. I don't know how to start because it makes me very sad. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's unbelievable how they all deceived me without hesitating. They must have not only shared my new address with her, but they had also been in constant communication with her. They didn't stop seeing her after the breakup, but I did. They believed she would reconsider eventually. They only spoke once a month, but it made me feel sad. Angela had to give up her legal rights when Sean served her with divorce papers. He told her she had to make a decision. She had 2 options: to leave her family and begin a new life with him, or to stay connected with her children and try to get custody. However, in order to try to get custody, they had to leave him. My parents say it was difficult for her to choose. but she decided to be with Sean and create a new family with him instead of staying with her original family. My parents told me that Angela contacted them soon after I started the divorce process. She asked for their help to communicate with her children without them finding out. She said that both of us had made things difficult for her. She believed she wouldn't see her children if she tried to get custody. I wanted to have custody of the children all the time and only allow visits with supervision. However, Sean advised her to leave the children without anyone to take care of them. Due to how our divorce unfolded and her anger issues, she most likely wouldn't get custody even if she fought against him. It felt like it wasn't worth it to argue, as she could end up losing custody of our daughters to Sean. That's when my parents gave me a hand. Angela visited them by herself and requested to keep in contact with our daughters. She knew that if she renounced her rights, she wouldn't be able to come. However, my parents would retain those rights, which they intended to exercise. They deceived me for a long time by secretly meeting Angela with our kids. They thought it was acceptable because they understood Angela's suffering and believed a mother should not be separated from her children. However, they did not feel remorse for killing their own son from behind. They used to ask Angela to join the children when I left them at their home. My parents gave my children presents and snacks to keep them silent, so they never mentioned they were visiting their mother. My daughters said they played games with their grandparents and a friend at their grandparents' house. I always thought they were referring to my parents' true friends. My parents told my daughters to refer to their mom as a friend if I ever asked. I can't believe my daughters lied to me, but I forgive them because they are young and easily influenced. When my parents told me what really happened, I asked my friends if they had seen their mom without me knowing. They started crying and said they couldn't tell me because they were afraid of God's punishment. Angela and my parents must have scared them, so they decided to keep it a secret. I also felt like I wasn't a good father because I never inquired about the people my parents were spending time with. Perhaps it was someone even more harmful than Angela, and I would have been unaware. But I'm finishing it now. I have already requested a restraining order against all of them. I have evidence because a few days after our argument, my parents explained everything to me in an email. They believed the email would explain why Angela wanted to remain a mother, but it only showed that they were all deceiving me. It's amusing that Angela gave up her rights as a parent and had to see our children in secret, as if it were against the law, because Sean didn't want her to communicate with her previous family. The person she believed was her true love is now going to break up with her. These two individuals have a child together, but my parents say Sean doesn't want to be with them anymore. He received a job offer and will be moving soon, but Angela doesn't want him to leave because their son just started school close by. As a result, they have been arguing for a while. 3 months ago, Sean told her he was tired and was going to leave for work. I thought I would feel sorry for Angela, but now I believe that justice has been served. The restraining order was requested after I spoke with my attorney. I was thinking about everything when I spoke to my friends. I said they couldn't visit their grandparents or mother for now. They seem fine with the situation, but we are going to therapy to deal with it because I know it has been tough for them and might continue to be so. But it has ended. Message 2. Hello everyone. Thank you for looking out for us and being there for us. I feel grateful for all the kind messages and prayers sent to my daughters. My parents and Angela have received restraining orders. They have to go to court soon. These things don't make me feel good because I've blocked them on every website I can. I also warned my friends not to contact them if they attempt to do so. I have also improved the safety of my house and have been working from home for a few days. I informed the school authorities about the problem at my daughter's school. At first, I hesitated to keep them home from school for a few days, but I also didn't want Angela and my parents to interfere with their education. Teachers were instructed to watch over them and inform that only I am authorized to collect them after school. I can't stop them from bothering us, but I'm sure they will attempt to do so. Everything is going well for now, and I hope they will keep their distance once we have the protection order. Modify 3. Hi, this is a brief report. We received a restraining order that will last for the next 5 years. If they come near me and my friends, something bad will happen to all 3 of them. I continue to follow the safety rules I established because the last time I checked them, they seemed upset, and I want to avoid any potential dangers. My daughters and I are going to therapy as a family every day, and I believe things will improve a lot in the coming months. So far, we have done a lot of work. I just want my daughters to be happy, that's it. Send us your good thoughts always. We require their presence. Thank you for looking at it. Please subscribe and turn on notifications to keep informed about more surprising real-life events occurring in your area if you haven't done so yet.